We're back with another infamous Twilight Zone wacky comedy episode. Luckily, I'll admit this is honestly a close to decently funny one. This episode was shockingly directed by the great Richard Donner, creator of such classics as the Superman movies and the Goonies, so you know he at least understands how to make charming comedy romps.
That's good.
However, this episode was written by a new, up-and-coming writer named Bernard C. Schoenfeld, so this is mostly his vision over Serling or the bigger names like Beaumont or Harlan Ellison. If you have no clue who Bernard even is, that's because this is his one and only Twilight Zone tale he ever wrote, as he was never recruited for the Zone ever again after this.
That's bad.
And considering how well we know the Twilight Zone is at comedy, you can probably guess how well this fable is. Now I will be fair, there's actually some decent jokes this time, such insane ideas and a premise that's genuinely unique and revolutionary for TV at the time.
That's good.
Tragically, it's still imperfect, as it suffers the usual weaknesses we've seen on horror comedy episodes, like super cartoony acting, the overdose on wacky sound effects, a jolly goofy soundtrack, and a campy atmosphere.
Ooh, that's bad.
But what are these shenanigans even about? We follow a computer techie named James Elwood, who's recently been tasked with handling the world's most powerful supercomputer, an AI labeled Agnes. However, the program has a tendency to stir up trouble as Agnes falls in love with her main programmer every time, and seeks a relationship with Elwood because she loves a man who gets her.
Can I go now?
Agnes and James form an odd friendship as the two relate throughout their journeys. But oh no, Elwood is in love with another chick, a hot secretary named Millie, who barely acknowledges his existence. So Elwood uses the Agnes computer to help him get laid.
There's the clicker. No one would blame you.
Yeah, this concept is pretty dumb, and the episode goes too over-the-top ridiculous with it. Now yes, it could be a fun, mindless comedy just to make us laugh, but as per norm, the show simply doesn't embrace the craziness 100%. The jokes are flat, and it's super corny, to the point of feeling cringe. All the acting is super campy too. The protagonist is your stereotypical, antisocial nerd who epic fails at life. Wally Cox is genuinely a talented comedian, and he does have some silly reactions here and there, but he does a whiny, annoying nerd voice the entire time, which gets grating after a while.
You're the star of all the mechanical brains, but whenever I follow your advice, they seem to louse things up. I've always been shy with women. Now she's angry with me, she'll never speak to me again.
Oh, I'm so annoying. I hope one day my balls drop and impress the sexy ladies.
James Elwood might easily be one of the worst Twilight Zone heroes of the series, and that's saying a lot since we haven't finished the 2000s era yet. Not helping matters is that most of the comedy is how inept he is at socializing, to the point where it feels like he's a total moron at common sense. Throughout the arc, James Elwood tries to score with Millie by getting the Agnes computer to aid him, but the supercomputer conspires against him, and actively sabotages his chances by giving him bad advice on purpose to screw him over, which he repeatedly falls for every time. He listens to Agnes, she gives him awful advice, and when he follows it, he epic fails at scoring and goes crying back to the computer for validation. Sometimes it's funny, but more often than not, Elwood's just a major dorkosaurus who screws up a lot and can't seem to figure out how he sucks so much, never once suspecting Agnes is up to schemes until it's too late. What won some points from me is that Agnes the supercomputer is genuinely funny and feels like a larger-than-life character in this, even though she can't speak with a real voice or even leave her built-in position at the college. The computer at least has a trippy design and way more personality than our cartoon cutouts of a cast.
What kind of flowers? Translate, please.
It's so odd because for such a cheap and lame Twilight Zone rom-com, this story weirdly predicted internet dating. Agnes is supposed to be this intelligent device that can solve any problem, yet her sentience and creepy yandere love for Elwood compromise her, where she blatantly gives him bad advice making his life worse, since she pretends she's helping him by getting him to lose his actual crush so he'd be forced to get closer to her keyboard. It eerily feels like those terrible weirdos online who commit heinous misdeeds to trick people into connecting with them over genuinely helping them find their own love. Like toxic followers or idiots who know nothing about giving love advice to others on a subject they don't know very well, only for those lessons to blow up in the faces of their foolish followers. Seems like our beloved Twilight Zone predicted the future. Unfortunately, that's the best achievement of this whole episode because the rest of the plot is just more dumb, cheesy, campy hijinks. Elwood fumbles up again and again, Agnes acts clingy, and we laugh at how dumb it all is, how this nerd can't romance. It tricks him into going out on a date with her even though he lacks confidence, he's duped into giving Millie flowers she's allergic to, and near the end, the femputer seriously tricks him into introducing Millie to a hotter, more successful coworker who ends up stealing her heart and cucks him.
Just because you get hung up, you don't want to ruin Millie's evening, do you, old man?
No, but
Good, you're a nice guy, Jim.
I hope you understand, Jim, perhaps tomorrow night.
I know Elwood's a total dorkasaurus, but he just comes across as too stupid for his own good. A lot of these antics are almost funny, but they miss that powerhouse zing that could have made them laugh out loud funny. Instead of letting the jokes land or play off the goofiness of the scenario, the scenes drag them out for too long. There's a lot of awkward, slow moments. Sometimes the punchline is a letdown after decent build-up, and of course the actors try way too hard at being cartoons. The Twilight Zone usually aims for these goofy comedies to be akin to Looney Tunes or Goofy, but they just don't go far enough with them, or focus on a lesser outcome. It truly speaks volumes that the funniest character in this is a machine, since all the effort went into Agnes. The supercomputer, I guess, is meant to be a yandere psycho fangirl, as she's obsessed with her scientist handling her, even driving Elwood's previous coworker to madness, but she just comes across as a clingy, jealous girl. Nothing scary occurs at all in this, even with the big reveal that she's been sabotaging Elwood's love life because she wants him. It's honestly done in a way where I can't tell if it was meant to be funny or a dark moment. Agnes has been played for laughs all episode, but the twist ending oddly tries to suddenly make her serial, which just doesn't fit with the tone we've had. Agnes is super funny, so I wish we had more interactions between her and Elwood, but tragically, it has a bootleg Jerry Lewis rom-com attached, which really drags it down with a childish, zany sense of humor between comedians who feel restrained. And that best sums up my opinion of this episode. It's almost a funny comedy, but it's restrained and doesn't go far enough, when it probably should have, at least to leave a bigger impression. Near the end, Elwood realizes Agnes wants him, freaks out, and his life completely falls apart. His dream girl hooks up with a hotter man, Agnes breaks down in a fit of angry feels, Elwood fails to keep the computer in order, and he goes bonkers now, where his boss forces him to take a leave of absence, before he forewarns his replacement that Agnes is a nasty girl, who will home wreck him too, just as the techie at the start told him. And the episode ends with a here we go again ending, as Agnes falls in love with the new Love Doctor.
Once again, the saga continues.
I guess if there was a lesson mixed in this, it's don't listen to crazy, but I was just so bored by most of it. From Agnes-With Love is another mediocre comedy that won't offend anyone, but has totally been outclassed by greater stories inspired by its concept, where an AI falls for an organic person and stirs up trouble to get them. This attempt is just so meh at it. The premise and Agnes AI are definitely unique elements, since they creepily hold up well in today's technological and social media crazed world, but the lazy hijinks, cheesiness, predictability, doofy atmosphere, and zaniness made it a chore to sit through. I grant it a bronze skull, and don't recommend. Not one of the worst episodes ever, as there's clearly potential here, even for a silly comedy misadventure, but it just feels out of the Twilight Zone's league, and is a major low-tier episode you won't miss. From Agnes-With Love may have a top model saving most of the humor and offering up some joy, but it's simply in need of debugging.
Why did you tell me to introduce Millie to that sex fiend?
The Twilight Zone.